I'm Michael Kelsch, also known as Michael the Beste, and I'm happy to be in this interview today. Today I think we are going to break down my Utrecht top cut, which I'm really looking forward to because it was my third major win after winning Stockholm last season and Stockholm in this season. I was able to win a special championship as well. Special events work a little differently than regionals, but it's basically in the end the same thing, just with different pricing. And I used a very cool team as well. I'm really happy to talk about the team as well. And also, for those who didn't know, I also was able to get to second place at Worlds 2 seasons ago. And in the last season, I finished third at Worlds as well. So I have some really good VGC accomplishments. But I only started VGC with Scarlet and Violet in 2023. But what many players actually do not know is that I was playing Pokemon since 2014, pretty much. Played random battles for a long time. And I also played some singles tournaments and draft tournaments as well. So I'm actually kind of a veteran, but new to the VGC scene. But I hope to maybe stand on top very soon.
Into your top 8 set with Hengwei Zhang, you were playing against an opposing Miraidon team, but they were using Ho-Oh. And I was just wondering a bit, like, what were you thinking about leading into that match before you were playing it? Like, once you knew that's who you were playing, but before you actually got into the set.
I was actually really scared playing against Hangye because I played against him twice before and I lost both times. So it's an opponent I had never beat before. And also the team is super scary for me. I actually lost to a Miraidon Iron Hands Urshifu single strike team in day one of the tournament. And seeing this Urshifu single strike again was something I really didn't want to see because usually Calyrex Ice is really good into those Miraidon Ho-Oh teams, but if there's an Urshifu, it's a different story because I also have to probably terrestrialize my Miraidon to Terra Fairy, which is good into the Urshifu, but that means I do not have the Terra option available for my Calyrex Ice anymore. And going into match, I was really scared. I wasn't necessarily scared of the Ho-Oh, but more of the Urshifu Miraidon Iron Hands Farigiraf core. And that's why I was actually very happy to not see Urshifu in any of those games.
Did you have any particular ideas about how you thought you were going to try and win that match, like leading into it, like before game one?
Yeah, so the good part about my team building or about our team building was that our Miraidon always survives a Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam from opposing Miraidon or two Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam if we terrestrialize, as well as an Electro Drift if we terrestrialize. So we kind of have the edge in the mirror because yes, we are slower, but we always survive a move from the opposing Miraidon, which is very important because if you decide to run a max speed Miraidon, in the end it comes down to a speed tie. And if you just know that you can survive a move, it's often just better. So I knew that with my Miraidon and my Calyrex Ice, I can actually deal a lot of damage in the early game because Hangye cannot target both Pokemon at the same time, and especially with a very good backline of Incineroar, because Incineroar provides Fake Out and Intimidate support, as well as Landorus. I can deal with the team very well. I can also use Urshifu instead of Landorus to have a better Pokemon into Ho-Oh, because if my game plan is to click Dazzling Gleam with Miraidon, I might want another Pokemon that is good into Ho-Oh. But I feel like the matchup was pretty even in the end, and my game plan was pretty smart.
Yeah, and I wanted to briefly touch on it. In games 1 and 2, you led Miraidon and Ice Rider. And was the idea there to kind of like try and overwhelm the opponent since he can only fake out one of the pieces? Or what was the idea behind leading those two?
Exactly. I feel like since Hengye also does not have a very good switching into Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, the Miraidon lead makes a lot of sense. But if I lead a Calyrex Ice as well, he has to choose which Pokemon he wants to fake out. And if he fake outs the Miraidon, I get a Glacial Lance off,
Mhm.
which also hits everything for neutral besides the Iron Bundle. But I was not really expecting Iron Bundle. And even if he brings Iron Bundle, I can take advantage because my Miraidon Terrestrialize doesn't take a lot of damage, so does my Calyrex Ice. So Iron Bundle is not a scary part in that matchup. And I thought that with these two, I can just deal a lot of damage early on, and then I can either close out the end game with a good timed fake out Dazzling Gleam from Miraidon Incineroar, or if he KOs my Miraidon instead of my Calyrex Ice, I can maybe also go for a fake out Trick Room later in the game and then just win with Glacial Lance knockoff spam. So that was my overall thought process there.
Then in game three, you shifted to the Incineroar lead over Miraidon. And was that, or can you walk me through a bit why you decided to make that lead switch up?
So in game two, I actually saw that the Iron Hands outsped my Calyrex Ice, and my Calyrex Ice had some speed investment. And I saw the team from Hengya, and I was like, it has to be Min Speed Hands because the team is not amazing into Ursaluna, in my opinion. So I was just banking everything on Min Speed Hands, and I actually had the game sealed in turn two of game two, and suddenly the Iron Hands low kicks my Calyrex Ice, and my whole game plan got destroyed. So I had to get a little creative in game three, and I realized that in both games it was the Miraidon that was the centerpiece of the games. And in game three, I thought, okay, maybe I can use my Miraidon later in the game to clean the game with Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, and especially if I get the information in which move the Miraidon from Hengya locks itself into, I can plan my terrestrialization a little better. Because if I lead with Miraidon, I am technically forced to terrestrialize because he can always click Draco into my Miraidon, and I don't want that. But if I have Miraidon in the back, I can keep the Terra and then time it a little better in the end game.
Were there any like post game realizations or discoveries that you kind of made about how that kind of matchup works when it's like opposing Miraidon as maybe that you're facing or Miraidon with certain pieces after you played that game?
So I feel like I made a small mistake in game two in the turn where I banked everything on being faster with my Calyrex Ice. I could have probably just clicked Protect and switch into Incineroar, and then I can start going for Glacial Lance Flare Blitzes because my Incineroar is also faster than the Iron Hands. So that was a small mistake, but overall, I feel like I was familiar how to play against Miraidon teams. Not with Ho-Oh, it was the first Ho-Oh I faced that weekend, and the horror was a little bit scary, gotta say. But with the max speed Incineroar, as well as the Miraidon, I could deal with it pretty easily. The Iron Hands was also not a big problem, especially because it was also super frail, since it was super fast. It died to an Earth Power from Landorus, which surprised me. But I think uh, even in hindsight, I feel like if Henya decided to bring Urshifu, I could have had some trouble because Urshifu is good into all of Landorus because it's faster than the Landorus and has a strong Wicked Blow. It's good into Incineroar with close combat as well as Calyrex Ice. But luckily, Henya decided to not bring Urshifu, which was relieving for me.
So, okay. Anything else you wanted to mention about that set or how you were like thinking about things in like a top 8 setting before we shift the top 4?
I can do it, yeah. Um, So in the top 8 set, I also made a switch with my Calyrex Ice into my Landorus instead of going for Protect just to get a better board position, because that's something some players really struggle into. They think they can get a double knockout or one knockout, and then they just protect their Pokemon. But being stuck on the field with my 20% Calyrex ice would have left me in a really, really bad position. And that's why it was good to switch into Landorus, because the Miraidon from Henge was locked into the Electro Drift because it had the Choice Specs item. So it was just a very smart switch. And those very smart switches are something you really have to go for, I feel like, especially in the later rounds, where you go for preserving your board position instead of preserving your Pokemon. It makes a ton of sense to understand the board state and then go for a play that isn't like the best play in the round or like in the turn itself, but think 1 or 2 turns ahead. And that's why I think this turn was really, really cool, and I'm really proud of that turn. And also, I was feeling really happy to finally beat Hengya after losing twice against him. One time I actually lost against him in NAIC as well, last year NAIC. So beating kind of my nemesis, because I never lost to someone 3 times outside of Aurelian, but I was able to beat Aurelian twice as well. But now finally able to beat Hengya in a top 8 match, which was also very close in the end. Felt really amazing.
Yeah, and I really like that whole pivot that you kind of set up with like the Ice Rider instant lead. Like he had no good move selections for the Rhydon. I felt like no matter what move he picked, he would have been sad about it because of Lando.
I was really scared that he just goes for Electro Drift low kick into my Calyrex ice, because if he goes for Electro Drift low kick into my Cali ice, he would actually knock it out, since I click Glacial Lance U-turn instead of something like Fake Out. And it was scary because I probably would be in a pretty bad spot. I would not lose instantly, because then after the U-turn, I get my Miraidon in. He is locked into Electro Drift. And then I have a Landorus Miraidon board, and I can go for Dazzling Gleam Earth Power. And he has nothing, like he has Ho-Oh, I guess, that he can switch into that. But Iron Hands and Farigiraf and Miraidon all have problems against the Earth Power. So yeah, and that's why it looked like a risky play. Like my turn 1 looked a little risky, because I could lose one of my restricteds in turn 1 without dealing any big damage back. But since the games were so short, it would have been fine even if that would have happened.
So, heading into your top 4 match against Nikolai Nielsen, was there anything that you were thinking about that match, or about how the previous match might influence this one, given they were both using Miraidon, or anything like that? Or just kind of walk us through generally how you were thinking.
So it is actually pretty funny, because Nikolai and I only played once before, and it was at Worlds 2023 in top 8. So there's also this kind of rivalry. He wants to get his revenge, but I feel like my matchup again was pretty good. The interesting part about the matchup as well is that my friend Alexander, who also played the same team I did, he played against Nikolai on stream in round 10, I think. So I was able to get some valuable information, because I got the information about the Zamazenta speed stat, because our Miraidon was actually really slow, but still faster than the Zamazenta. I got the confirmation that the Miraidon from Nikolai is a max speed, max special attack, and I got the confirmation that Ursaluna Blood Moon, even though it's on a Tailwind team, it is slower than my Calyrex Ice. So I got all these information, and in all 3 games against Alexander, he used the very same game plan of leading Miraidon Sneasler with Ursaluna and Zamazenta in the bag. So I knew that I can go for a game plan that covers these 4, and that's why I decided to go with pretty much the same game plan in all 3 games, because that's the only game plan that works into the those 4, and it's the Landorus Calyrex Ice lead with Miraidon and Urshifu in the back.
Explain to us a bit about why that lead was the best way to kind of chew through the Sneasler Maridon stuff and whatever, and like Zama and whatever other piece he was bringing in the back.
So the problem for our team was that we had no fake out immunities. Our plan was to have the fastest fake out available with our Incineroar, because we play the max speed Incineroar, and usually we should be faster than Incineroar and Rillaboom. But then there's a Sneasler, and a Sneasler is a little bit faster than the Incineroar, unfortunately. And our team has no priority block, and we also only have 2 protects. So I am kind of forced to lead with both my protect mons to get around this fake out. And the good thing is that Landorus and Kelly Ice are also both good into a Miraidon Sneasler lead, because I actually calculated it before the game started, but our Landorus survives a Dazzling Gleam plus close combat from Sneasler. Our Calyrex Ice also survives Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam into close combat, and if the Miraidon decides to lock itself into Dazzling Gleam, we can also go Terra Poison, right? And then our Landorus is even better into Sneasler Miraidon board. So this just felt really good overall, because the only one-hit KO Nikolai can get is if he goes for Draco Meteor into my Landorus. But even that would be fine, because then my Ice Rider can just start getting off Glacial Lances, and then I can get my Miraidon in and stuff like that. So that's what we also see in or saw in game 1, right? And that my game plan of Landorus, Calyrex Ice worked perfectly. Interestingly enough, Nikolai switched his Terra Fairy Miraidon into Zamazenta, predicting a Sludge Bomb heading into that slot, but instead I clicked Earth Power, one-hit KOing the Zamazenta, and the crowd went crazy. But my original idea was, if I click Sludge Bomb, yes, I get a single target Glacial Lance into the Sneasler, but with Earth Power, I can first cover a switch out, and since both my Pokemon are safe from like a knockout, because he cannot KO either Pokemon, I can chip the Miraidon with Earth Power and then knock it out with Glacial Lance, which gives me an attack boost on my Ice Rider, which is actually more valuable than getting 10% extra damage on the Sneasler, because it would have not been important for anything. So that's why I would say Earth Power was just the safest move. And after the Zamazenta dropped, the game was pretty much set. He was just not able to come back at that point. And since this game 1 game plan worked so well, I decided to go with the same game 2 game plan. And unfortunately, he got some gunk shot poisons, which is the nature of playing Sneasler, right? I mean, 30% is not low, but because of the gunk shot poison on my Calyrex Ice, I was forced into a position where I have to win a mind game in the end, because he was going for this Draco into the Landorus, but I was actually fine with it, because as long as he doesn't get the poison. Since he got the poison, it came down to which Pokemon do I Terra? Do I want to Terra my Urshifu or my Calyrex Ice in the end game? I decided to go for Terra Ghost on my Urshifu. Especially because I thought he bought Ursaluna this time in the back instead of Farigiraf. And he bought Farigiraf again, unfortunately, because if he bought Ursaluna, I could have just clicked Terra Ghost Searching Strikes, and I would have always won the game. So my game plan was playing around with Ursaluna, but he bought the Farigiraf, which had also a lot of physical defense investment, surviving my choice band close combat and going for the read with foul play. And that's how I lost game 2. But since this game 2 was a little unlucky, I decided to go with the same plan for game 3. And in turn 2, I also had this feeling that he might double up my Calyrex Ice this time instead of my Landorus, because I could switch my Landorus into Grimmsnarl because Alexander, for example, brought Grimmsnarl in all 3 games. So he has to fear clicking Draco into a fairy type. And it worked since he actually doubled my Calyrex Ice, and I was fine trading my Calyrex Ice for the Sneasel because now he was at -2. And then I knew that my Miraidon should survive a Draco Meteor. It's still a roll, which is heavily in my favor. I could go for Terra Fairy as well, but I decided to not do it because I could use the Terra Poison against the Terra Fairy Miraidon on my Landorus later on. But I just grabbed a double knockout and then it was game. So that's why I decided to not go for a Terra. It looked very risky, but if you think about how bulky our Miraidon was, it made sense that wasting the Terra Rare would have not been amazing. Especially he has to go for a Draco into my Miraidon, which has the Terra Fairy as an option, which is super unlikely because Terra Fairy is very good, a very good option there. And he has to get either the high roll or a critical hit. And even if that happens, he would be -4, and I can still win with Landorus Urshifu because he cannot switch anymore, and then I just win with Landorus Urshifu regardless. So all around, I think I made the correct choices, and it was again a close set, but I was really happy with how I played it.
Okay, awesome, cool. And was there any like post-match notes that you had about the set or pertaining to it?
I was actually surprised to see the Farigiraf in all 3 games after he brought Ursa Luna Blood Moon in the 3 games against Alexander. Like, obviously, you don't bring Tornadus. The Tailwind doesn't get you enough value, and Tornadus against Miraidon Ice Rider sounds a little sus. So it was always a combination of the other 5 Pokemon. But not seeing the Ursa Luna really should have made me realize how I could go for a Trick Room route as well. I did not think about going for Trick Room with Calyrex Ice at all, especially with Choice Band Urshifu, plus Calyrex Ice and Trick Room. I have an amazing matchup also with the Landorus, and that's probably why he also decided to double up the Ice Rider in the game 3, because he was scared of letting the Trick Room go up. But I actually just clicked Glacial Lance there. But if I clicked Trick Room there, I think it would have been better, especially after how game 2 played out. If he goes for Draco into my Landorus, I should go for a Trick Room. But I was always scared of Ursa Luna Blood Moon being in the bag, and that's why I decided to not go for it. But that's something I could have done in the end if I, especially after the first 2 games, I could have went for it. But in the end, it didn't matter because the Calyrex Ice dropped in turn 1 or rather turn 2 anyways.
Leading into the finals versus Lewis Markle, what were you kind of thinking about? I mean, obviously you knew what his team was, but how are you thinking about how you deal with that team and everything that kind of comes with the matchup, with how you were planning on winning that one?
So, first of all, I was not happy to see Zama Shadow Rider because the evening before the tournament, we all said that our worst matchup is going to be Zama Shadow Rider. We kind of banked on Zama Shadow Rider not being a huge thing after it performed really bad at Milwaukee. I think there was only one in top 64, and our thoughts were like Europe is a little more Zama Shadow Rider pilled, but seeing Zama Shadow Rider in the finals was really bad for me, honestly, because our matchup into that is not good, unfortunately. But I was really happy to play against a very close friend in Lewis, because sharing a stage in the finals with your friend, like, there's pretty much no better outcome for the finals, right? And I also knew that the finals is going to get weird because Lewis and I played against each other in 2 online tournaments, Victory Road once and on a big limitless tournament the other day. And he always played super aggressive. Like, I had a Flutter main, and he had a Shadow Rider, and I'm like, okay, you either protect your Shadow Rider or you Terra. So I click Icy Wind. He doesn't protect, he doesn't Terra, he just clicks War Nasty Plot. I could have Shadow Balled it. Stuff like that. He's a player who does that often. We saw it in the semifinals match. Alexander played against him, so he also knew how the matchup would be like. And there was a turn where his Shadow Rider would just die to knock off from Insyn. So Alexander decided to click U-turn, and Lewis just clicks Astral Barrage, no Terra, nothing. And that's just the way he plays, and that's why I decided to. I decided to play differently than I usually do, because I always played it very safe. Whenever I had Miraidon on the field, I always clicked Draco into Shadow Rider, because I was like, okay, you're not going to click Protect. You are not a guy, like, I know you don't do it. And he did it every time, every single time. And I was so upset about it. But I was still able to fight back in the game one. It was a very long game. It was, I think, 19 minutes in the end, because there were a lot of switches with screens. Like, my game plan was pretty good, I think, after seeing how the games went between Alexander and Lewis. I also knew how Lewis would approach the matchup, so that was really good. And also, I think that I should have not done what I did in game two, but I have an explanation, okay? I know going for Terra Ghost Thunderwave Earth Power in turn one, that is something I would never do. But there was something happening out of the tournament, because when we started the set, my train was leaving in 50 minutes after starting the set. And the first game lasted 20 minutes about. And then I was like, okay, I have to end this game in 2 minutes to get my train. So I will just lead with something that can actually win me the game in 2 minutes. Because if I get an Earth Power crit there, I win. Like, I literally win in 2 minutes. If he goes for Nasty Plot, I win in 2 minutes. If he gets fully paralyzed, maybe it will take a little while, because he can still try to outposition myself. But one of those three things, and I just win the game. I knew that he would fake out my Grimmsnarl, because nobody clicks Terra Ghost with Grimmsnarl in front of a Shadow Rider. But I really wanted to catch my train, and yeah, it unfortunately didn't work out at all. I also made a blunder kind of in my Mon choice, because if I go for this super fast-paced game plan, I should not bring the Ice Rider, but the Miraidon instead. As you saw, I only bought one restricted, since I bought the other three, like Landorus, Grimmsnarl, and I think it was Insyn. So yeah, I could have also bought the Urshifu, but I did, in the end mixed up those plans, because I thought I only need this Landorus Grimmsnarl lead to end the game, because he maybe surrenders after turn one. That was at least what I was hoping for. Didn't happen, and since the game also lasted a little longer than anticipated, I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I cannot catch my train anymore regardless, even if game 3 only lasts, I don't know, 10 seconds. So maybe I should play it out normally. So I decided to go back to my game 1 plan. And again, after we saw how game 1 went, I was able to win game 1, but I hit into the Protect every single time. I could just click Draco U-turn, like if I have Insyn Miraidon on the board, I can click Draco U-turn on the other slot, Rillaboom would faint, Incineroar would faint, Zamazenta, he never switched in Zamazenta, but I thought I cannot give him this free Nasty Plot. And then the game started off, and it took some while until we hit a very, very crucial turn, because he was able to get to +5 with his Terra Dark Shadow Rider, and I was on my field with Incineroar and Grimmsnarl behind Light Screen. And he had the possibility or the option to go for Protect with the Calyrex Shadow Rider and knock off with Incineroar into my Incineroar to knock the Assault Vest. so that in the next turn he can grab a double knockout with Helping Hand Astral Barrage. And then I only have Ice Rider and Miraidon, he just kicks Helping Hand Astral Barrage again, and I would lose because the Shadow Rider was also not in range for the Life Orb. So it might look like an auto loss for me because he can just click Protect Knockoff and then I lose the game. But in the end, he clicked Helping Hand Astral Barrage. But there's a reason. I stayed with both my Pokemon, right? But if I decide to switch out Incineroar into Calyrex Ice on the Protect knockoff play, yes, I lose my leftovers on my Calyrex Ice, but that would be fine because then next turn I can click Protect with my Calyrex Ice and I can just click Spirit Break with my Grimmsnarl because he is forced to click Helping Hand Astral Barrage. Otherwise, he cannot KO my Grimmsnarl, and then Grimmsnarl will KO the Shadow Rider, and he can also not switch out the Shadow Rider because with all the setup for nothing, he's also very low, so he has to knock out my Grimmsnarl, and then I get my Incineroar in again, and since he terrestrialized the Shadow Rider earlier in the game, I can go for a safe play, which would be Fake Out Trick Room, and then I can start spamming Glacial Lances and Flare Blitz, and I would still have my Terra, and I still have my full life Miraidon behind screens and Trick Room then. I could also go for an aggressive play if I call out another Protect on the Shadow Rider. I could go for U-turn into the Incineroar slot and set up Trick Room. Then I have Ice Rider and Miraidon, and then I can just start spamming Glacial Lance, Flare, Electro Drift. But I can also start spamming Flare Blitzes with my Incineroar. But that would actually get me in a good position again, and that's why he decided to click Helping Hand Astral Barrage in the end. I was also not sure if maybe Grimmsnarl survives that as well, and we calculated after the game. It was actually a roll in his favor. It was like 75% chance to KO my Grimmsnarl, but I could have survived it. And there was also another key turn where I got a critical hit with Electrodrift on the Zamazenta, ending the game immediately. The turns before I played a little weird with like Electro Drift into the Incin, Leech Seed into Zama. I was overthinking things. I had a really, really, really rough weekend health-wise, and my head was about to explode. So I made some questionable turns after I knocked out the Shadow Rider. I thought like I was winning, but my head was just I was not mentally there to play it out, and because I could have played it way better in the end, because if I just kick Electro Drift Glacial Lance and I force him to White Guard, next time he cannot protect, so I can Electro Drift that slot again. I can just spam Electro Drift Glacial Lance, but my targeting should have been a little differently. And in the end, I was able to win due to the crit. I could have also won without a crit. Would have been super hard, well, because my Miraidon was low, my Incineroar was low, but since I got the crit, I was able to win the game. I felt sorry for Lewis because he is one of the best German players, if not one of the best European players. He had a top 32 finish recently, a finalist in Utrecht, and a top 8 finish before that. So he's in a good streak, but I was also very happy for myself, obviously, winning a tournament. Why should you not be happy? But winning against a friend, especially in such a close set, and if it comes down to like a crit and stuff, you are not happy about that, I think. And that's why I didn't look as happy as you should have expected in the camp. But that's the reasoning behind that.
Awesome. Fantastic. If you wanted to share any notes about how you felt like just winning the tournament or in general or anything post that match that you didn't already just share. If the answer is no.
It was a little sad because I was actually planning on driving back with a friend, with one of my best friends, but he had to leave because he wanted to catch the train, which is totally like fine. Like I do not mind that at all because otherwise he would not get back home. So, but it was still a little crushing because I could not jump into his arms. But my best friend was still waiting there, and I was then able to drive back with my best friend. We kind of figured out how it worked, but in general, like this experience that I finished first and my friends finished second and third. Like we had this picture, all of our medals next to each other. It was wild. Especially my friend who finished top four. He had to finish top eight at least, if not top four. We don't know what the cutoff will be yet, but he had to finish that highly to get his world's invite as well. So I was also just really happy for my friends because Lewis also was able to secure the travel award that way, and he said he's not sure if he was going to worlds because it's a lot of money and stuff, but now he can go to worlds. And like everything that has happened across the weekend for my friends was just amazing. Just my health was totally doomed. But that's why it was good that I could finally rest after such a long tournament. But yeah, overall, the emotions everything was there. We were all sad and scared of like my health and everything, but we were also very happy about everything we've achieved. So yeah, across everything, I would say an amazing weekend.
So, is there anything that you wanted to share about experiencing tournaments in those late rounds and those top cuts for anyone who's vying to be there at some point one day?
So yeah, I feel like playing in a top cut is always scary because you know that every game or every set rather you lose, it's over for you, right? You can have an undefeated one up until the top cut, but you can still lose in top 16 and it's just over for you. So the top cut is always super scary, but I think the most important part is to not think about it that way, that if you lose, you're out. It's just a mentality thing that you should think about rather instead of spending time thinking about this not so important stuff, you should use the time to think about the matchups instead. And that's what I like to do with my friends because that's what VGC has taught me. Your friends are always there to support you. So we also do that during the day two Swiss rounds, but especially because you know the teams from your opponents in the day two Swiss rounds as well as the top cut, you know what you play against. So you can strategize with your friends on how to go for the most optimal lines and talk about what you think is the best option. And together you can get the best outcome, I think, because maybe you overlook something. For example, I did not know, or like, it's so obvious, but our Incineroar's faster than Urshifu Rapid Strike, so we can go for knockoff before we can go for Surging Strikes into Rocky Emmet Pokemon. I forgot about that, but my good friend Ibrahim Marouf told that to me, and then I was able to beat Joan Garcia in the top 16 match because I knew I can always double up a slot with knockoff Surging Strikes without worrying that Amoonguss switches into me and I take 50% with my Urshifu, for example. And that's why I think it's really cool to talk with friends about the matchups. Even if you're alone, you can always get connected everywhere. Technically, you can play locals to get connected. You can look online to get some connections because I think this is really something that is not just helping you in the run, it's also just a ton of fun just talking with your friends about those matchups. And I think that's one thing I really recommend on doing. And yeah, as I already said, also do not think about, oh, if I lose now, it's over for me. Do not do that at all. Just try to play the game. That's how I play. I want to play the best set possible in every set. Like round one is the same as finals for me. I want to play the best Pokemon I can. And I do not think about, okay, if I make it further and further, I have to play better and better because that doesn't make sense, in my opinion, because you should always try to play to your best. And that's why I also feel more crushed when I lose, even though I played phenomenally. When like if I win and I played really poorly, I'm super upset about myself, even if I win. You know, it is weird to explain, but it is just something in me that I just want to play good Pokemon instead of like the result obviously matters in the end, but how you get the result is super important to me, and that's why also I was not full of joy after that final set, because it was not the greatest set. Like, I played game 2 how I would never play it. Michael Kelsch would never play such a line. I remember that. Or like the game 3 with the crit and everything. The way I won the tournament was not amazing, but outside of that, like the other matches, I was really proud of. Also, my round 6 stream match and day 1 was also pretty good. But that's something you should always keep in mind, in my opinion. Do not try to think about playing better and better the further you go. Just try to play the best in every possible round, because it's actually quite impossible. I say it out loud. It is impossible to play perfect in every round. Even players like Wolf, Marco, myself, like, we make all tons of mistakes, because how do you even define playing perfect in Pokemon? But you want to do as little or as less mistakes as possible, and that's what I can really recommend. Try to play the best in every round, and try to prep with friends, with matchups, because it, as I said, doesn't just help you out, it also is a ton of fun. I think you agree with me there.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Pretty much like everything you said. So yeah, that was really awesome. Thank you.